never questioned my family. I never had any reason to. Most people don't. You get what you get, and I've always been pretty happy with what I have. My mum, my dad, and my brother. A pretty standard family dynamic. When they told me that I had a brother that I'd never known about, I didn't really know what to think. I just thought, where has he been all this time? And why didn't I know about him until now when I'm 14? Everything that my mum went through when she was a similar age to what I am now, I can't even imagine what it would have been like.
I met a man a lot older than me who I fell in love with, who my parents didn't approve of at all. When I became pregnant, I think that he probably panicked a lot in a lot of ways and became very angry towards me, and I became quite fearful of what might happen to me or my baby. I moved back home thinking that I was doing the right thing, that it was safer. I was about 5 months pregnant, I think, when I told them, and just starting to show, and they were furious. They were so angry, and basically I was condemned because I brought this shame on the family and that I'd done all these things that was hurtful to them, and that basically I was not worthy of becoming a mother. As I became closer to giving birth, my parents became, particularly my mother, became more and more aggressive towards me. She was having as much difficulty, I think, in some ways as I was, and it showed in her constantly trying to push me into the adoption. At this stage too, Ben's father had disappeared. I still was convinced that I'd be able to figure out some way of keeping my child, and I hung on to that hope right until the very end. I went into hospital as a very frightened, very uninformed 18-year-old, just turned 18-year-old. They came in to see me from the adoption agency. It was all very vague and weird. And I'd actually asked if I could see him before I signed, and they said that wasn't a good idea, that I was better to sign first. When I walked into the room, the social worker was with me, and Ben was in a cot. He was sound asleep. And he looked so peaceful. And I can remember looking at him. And all I could think was, if I pick you up, I won't be able to put you down. And I would ruin his life if I kept him. That there were people who would be much better to look after him than me. And that I wasn't worthy of being his mother. I moved back into the city, into King's Cross. I'd rung the adoption agency to ask them if anything ever happened to the babies, did they ever hear about it? And I was pretty surprised. I got the same caseworker who'd looked after me during the whole process of the adoption. And she told me that the last time she'd seen Ben was when he was about 6 months old with his adoptive parents. and that he was a very happy, healthy baby, and they seemed to be very happy looking after him. I'd asked them at that point in time if they'd give me a photograph of him, and they did. They sent me 2 photographs of him. I carried those photographs everywhere I went. Until I met Huey, I'd sworn that I'd never have children again, that I couldn't deal with what had happened with Ben and I, or losing another child. He was the only person that had ever said to me that any child of mine would always be welcome in his home, and that clinched the deal, and I married him, and I had Adon and Annalivia. I thought maybe somehow there'd be some healing in having my children, but I constantly thought about him and wondered where he was. On and off, I'd fill out forms and then I'd get frightened to send them. Eventually, a friend of mine at work said to me, "Susie, you have to do this. You have to go and put these forms in. You have to find out once and for all, otherwise you're never going to heal." And I did.
Mum's last search for Ben lasted about 4 years. She hit many speed bumps along the way until she finally received a call from the Salvation Army. They'd found Ben, and what followed was a 20-minute call that she'd been waiting for 35 years.
He said to me, "Mum, I haven't had a very good life." And I started to cry. And he said, "It's all right, Mum. I'm okay now." I knew his voice. It was just so familiar to me. And he said to me, "Mum," he said, "You don't mind me calling you Mum, do you?" He said, "Because you are my mother." And I said, "No, Ben. It just sounds so right." And then he said, "One more question," he said, "What fucking nationality am I?" And it suddenly dawned on me that he had no history. He had no knowledge of who he was or where he'd come from.
Ben was taken away from his adoptive parents when he was about 8 years old, and so then he was put through the foster care system. But after all of the unfit families that he went through, he kind of took it upon himself to find his own home.
I always thought sometimes that finding her would help me find myself, because I've always been pretty lost. And my experience growing up were probably a little bit different than normal people. In 1984, I was taken away from my parents, my adopted parents. Broke out of there and ended up in Town Hall. Met up with some more street kids up there that were a bit older than me, so yeah, they introduced me to King's Cross. Went in and out of jail and refuges and yeah, rehabilitation, detoxes, yeah, foster families, yeah.
Hearing about the way that Ben grew up compared to how me and my brother got to grow up, it's pretty messed up that he didn't get to grow up with my mum and with us. When Ben, his wife Sarah and daughter Hayley moved across the street, it was really good getting to spend some more time with them and getting to know them, because even though he's my brother, I still didn't really know that much about him. It's like you're getting to know a stranger, but that stranger is part of your family.
It was a good feeling, you know. You got a brother and sister. But it's a weird feeling. Always sort of something that eats at the back of your head, you know. It's like, no offence, but you know, why are you good enough and I'm not? You know. So she was, I don't know, she was young and that, and I understand, you know. But at the same time, there's other things that go through your head, like, you know, she was old enough to run away and get pregnant with my father. Well, go back when you're pregnant and get told that you can't keep me and do what you're told, you know. I don't understand it, you know. That's just me, but that's the way I grew up because of what I went through. You know. I'd never ever let anything in the world happen to my kid. You know. I understand she probably thought she was doing the right thing, I don't know.
I believe really strongly now that a mother knows in her heart of hearts she can take a child away from them, but you can't take that bond away from them.
I think it's always going to be complicated. I don't think it's ever going to be easy for either of them. I really do want Mum and Ben to eventually be able to just be happy with the fact that they got to find each other and they have this time together now. And I think it's hard for Ben to forgive Mum, which is understandable. But I just hope that one day he can see the type of mother she is, and that if she had had more say, that she would never have done that to him. I don't know, if I grow up to be half the woman that she is, I would be so proud.